Hi, it's Mai here with another Booktube SFF Babbles video. This week's topic is science fiction favorites, and you might have noticed that I haven't done the Babbles videos during the past few weeks because they have been science fiction themed, and I didn't have anything to tell you about overlooked science fiction or where to start with science fiction, sort of beginner's tips. Even though I'm not the biggest science fiction reader myself, the books that I really like aren't the ones that I would just suggest to other people to be their first science fiction books, because they are a bit complicated. But this week's topic, my science fiction favorites, is something that I felt like I could do, so I'm doing it. And as usual, I will be leaving links to the Goodreads group for the Booktube SFF Awards down in the description, and also the thread for this week's topic, so you can go and watch other people's videos. So this week's topic is science fiction favorites, a handful of science fiction books or authors that I want to talk about that are my favorites. I read a little bit of science fiction starting from when I was about 12 or 13, and my first favorite is from that time. And I could say that it was the first science fiction book that I read. It most probably was. And that is the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series by Douglas Adams. And these are very random, quite bizarre comedic science fiction, and I think most of you have at least heard the name Douglas Adams and most probably have heard about this series. I think that I didn't read the books first. I think that I listened to the audio radio play. The Hitchhiker's Guide is of course a really well-known radio play, at least in Britain, and there was a Finnish version of the play, so that's what I listened to when I was a kid. I listened to the Hitchhiker's Guide on the radio in Finnish. And then I also read the books. I have The Restaurant at the End of the Universe and The Life, the Universe and Everything in the Finnish editions, and I think these are so funny. These are the same covers as in the early 90s Finnish editions, done in this great early 90s computer graphics, and I really like them. I don't have the first one. I just found these two for 50 cents each from a library sale, so I of course picked them up. I'm really nostalgic about these editions. I love the covers. They are sort of charming in these pixelated old computer graphics. And also I haven't actually read any Adams in English. I should try because I want to know what his language sounds like, but it's engraved into my brain the way that the people spoke in the radio play. So I have tried to read Hitchhiker's Guide in English before, but especially the first book is so ingrained into my brain that I couldn't do it. I have to read it in Finnish. So this is one of the few books that I have only read in Finnish. I usually read my fantasy and science fiction in English. So when I was a kid and in my early teens, I also read a few other science fiction books, but they didn't leave that huge of a mark on me. I think I read Dune, and I can't remember much about it, except the stuff that's also in the film with, which I know is quite different, the film with Kyle MacLachlan and Sting. But I think I'd really need to reread Dune right now. I don't think I got everything about it when I read it. I think I read a few Bill the Galactic Hero by Harry Harrison books, and I also read a lot of books by William Sleater. They were sort of science fiction books for younger readers. And I also read a couple of quite weird books. I read Michael Moorcock's The Dancers at the End of Time and Tim Powers' The Anubis Gates. And then when I was about 18, I also read a few cyberpunk novels. I read Neuromancer and Count Zero by William Gibson. I read Scissors Cut Paper Wrap Stone by Anne MacDonald. I read When Gravity Fails by George Alec Effinger and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. So I read a lot of science fiction that took place on our planet. And I don't know why I didn't read stuff that takes place in space or on other planets, since I do enjoy science fiction TV series and movies that take place in space. Of course, the biggest influence to young me being the Star Wars trilogy, which I watched when I was about 7 or something. I have the DVD box set with the untampered with editions, which I'm hugely glad that I bought when this was available. I have also read the dystopian classics. I would say they are George Orwell's 1984, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, and Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. And that is one of my other favorites. So I loved Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. It is a story of a fireman in this future being one who goes and burns books. And I don't even know why I love this book so much. I think I fell in love with Ray Bradbury's writing style. It's really beautiful, which is strange because I have read only one other book from Bradbury, and that is Something Wicked This Way Comes. And I didn't really enjoy that, but I think that might be because I'm not a huge fan of that sort of boyhood nostalgia that the book focused on. It just didn't work for me. But Fahrenheit 451 did, and I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it for everyone. So this brings me to a couple of years ago when I decided that perhaps I needed to read science fiction that took place in space. Perhaps I was missing good stuff because I didn't pick that stuff up. When I was looking at books in the library when it said aliens or another planet, I most likely thought it would be boring and put it back in. It just didn't ever call to me. So I asked a few people and made a list of a few science fiction set in space with spaceships or aliens and stuff like that. And I read 7 books from that list. I read stuff by Bester, Lem, and Banks, but nothing was really working for me until I got to The Quantum Thief by Hannu Rajaniemi. And this is Rajaniemi's hard science fiction series about a thief called Jean Le Flambeur. It's really complicated and it has a lot of mathematical terms and words that are invented by Rajaniemi, and I loved it. I like the mix of hard science fiction where I didn't quite even understand every word that I read, but with the heist plot style thing with good characters and this sort of gentleman thief main character. Somehow I really liked that. So Quantum Thief is another one of my favorites. I really like the whole series, and this is one of those things that was the reason why I didn't do the Where's to Start with Science Fiction video, because I wouldn't really recommend people to start with The Quantum Thief, even though I really liked it. Also, if you want to have tips on how to say Rajaniemi, I will leave a link to my video where I give you tips, do just that, and also read aloud some of the Finnish names in the books. So if you want to see that, go see that video. But yeah, reading Quantum Thief really emboldened me to next pick up Ancillary Justice by Anne Leckie, and this is another one of my favorites. This book is so well written with such great characters, but also with some complicated themes around it. This is also a book that some people find to be a hard read. After Quantum Thief, it wasn't really that hard a read for me, but it's great. It's a trilogy, and I really like all of the books, even though I think I might like the first one the best. I can't really decide before I reread the whole series. So this is quite a new series, so you may have heard about it a lot already, but it's the one with the ship's AI that used to have many bodies, and now she's reduced to just one body and has to learn to live like that among people. Last year I also read another dystopian book, The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, and I really enjoyed it. It was a hard read at times because of the hard topics it tackled, but it was also so beautifully written. I really want to read something else by Margaret Atwood. If you have anything to suggest me, please do. I've only read The Handmaid's Tale and I'm not quite sure where I want to go next. I really like the slow, quiet atmosphere of it and the writing style, so if you know what Atwood book would be most like that in tone, then please leave a suggestion in the comments. So I think those were all my science fiction favorites. The Hitchhiker's Guide series, the Quantum Thief or Jean Le Flambeur series, the series beginning with Ancillary Justice, and the 2 dystopian books, The Handmaid's Tale and Fahrenheit 451. I sort of rambled a bit on this video about my science fiction reading history, but I hope you weren't bored by it, and I will see you next week in the final Booktube SFF Babbles video. Bye!